Audrey Grant. Welcome to the second edition of the Better Bridge Teachers Newsletter. In this issue, our book review is On Education by Bertrand Russell. It was published in 1926, and I think it's just as relevant now as it was then. It really has stood the test of time. In Audrey and the Experts, we introduce you to Jenny Ryman Wolpert. She's a world champion in so many ways. I know you're going to enjoy this interview. For material, I'm going to introduce you to Bridge Basics 1, and I'd like to discuss 5 reasons why this book will not let you down when you're teaching Bridge for the Absolute Beginner. And we go to Sedona, Arizona, and we look at a thriving Bridge community. On Education by Bertrand Russell. This book is interesting in so many ways. It's a short book, but you know, almost every sentence could be a quote. Let's take a look at the first one. Open-mindedness is a quality which will always exist where desire for knowledge is genuine. It only fails with the belief that we already know the truth. How can we promote open-mindedness? Well, here's one idea. The Bridge world has been around for over a half a century. And one of the articles, very popular one in this magazine, is the Master Solvers Club. We work with the Bridge world, and the Master Solvers Club is in the Better Bridge magazine, and it's also in our interactive daily Bridge column. The calls that the experts made were quite surprising, and they will surprise our students. And the good part of this is that we can say, you own the game, it doesn't own you, and you're allowed to have your opinion. We're never wrong. There's always someone to agree with us, even if we're just agreeing with ourselves. So there we go. We can promote open-mindedness by showing the students that the best in the world have different opinions on the same seemingly very simple hand. Now, here's the next quote. Let the student be active rather than passive. This is one of the secrets of making education a happiness rather than a torment. This is an interesting quote. Are our classes active or passive? We might not be able to clearly know. For example, if we like to write on the flip chart, we as a teacher will be very active. We'll have our magic marker, we'll be using it, taking the top off, putting it back on, writing on the board, we'll be talking. We'll be very active. So if asked, do we run an active classroom, we could think, in all truth, yes, we do. There's lots of activity. But closer look, what are the students doing? Are they talking? Are they talking among themselves? Are they writing anything? There's such a difference between what the student is experiencing and what the teacher is experiencing. So this simple quote from Bertrand Russell can certainly cause us pause for thought. Well, let's look at a couple of other of Bertrand Russell's sentences, which could be quotations. The power of concentration is a very valuable quality, which few people acquire except through education. There are 3 qualities which distinguish perfect concentration. It should be intense, prolonged, and voluntary. If we're thinking about what the student is getting from our class, of course there will be many different things. We can think in terms of simply what they're getting as far as Bridge facts or information would be. But if the Bridge class is increasing concentration, and this seems to be a very important thing, our Bridge class may be doing more than we think. Let's consider the 4th quote. You can stimulate the ambition required for overcoming difficulties by grading the difficulties so that the pleasure of success may at first be won fairly easily. That sounds familiar. In the first issue of the Better Bridge Teachers magazine, we talked about 5 steps to simplify the end play, and that certainly moved from the steps 1 through 10, with the first deal being very straightforward and easy to understand. And then we moved one step at a time to increase the level. And certainly the students were quite comfortable even by the time we arrived at the 10th deal. In this interview, Jenny Ryman Wolpert gives some ideas about what she thinks we need to change in bridge. Out of the 100 top bridge players, why is it that women are so poorly represented? Only a few of these 100 top bridge players would be women. Jenny certainly has her opinion about that. Jenny is a gifted player. She's a natural. Does this mean that she doesn't have to study? I wonder how many minutes, if any, Jenny would spend studying bridge when she's competing in a very vital tournament. And now we come to the material section. I'd like to introduce you to Bridge Basics 1, an introduction. And I'd like to discuss 5 reasons why this book simply won't let you or your students down. First of all, it's attractive. It's in red and black with boxes shaded in pink and gray. So it's an attractive book to read. The other thing about it is it's nice size. It's bite-sized and it fits under the bidding box. And there's features of it that we might not know. First of all, let me tell you about the binding. It's auto-bound. So if we put the covers so that they meet, I know we don't like doing this, and we're worried that the book may fall apart, but it won't. So the auto-bound with the little air pocket allows us to open the book and have the book lie flat. And this is wonderful for the students because they like to do exercises, and this gives them the opportunity to do them with great comfort. The book isn't snapping at their fingers, and also it doesn't fall apart. There are things in this book that the student likes. For example, it has exercises for them to do, quizzes. And the quizzes are on the left-hand side, and the answers are on the right-hand side. So this really does save the students time. If they're the type of student that they do not want to look at the answer, they can just put something over this page. If they're the type that would like to check it constantly, they can do that too. So we're letting the students learn in the way that the student would like to learn, not how we would like the student to learn. The other thing is there's a glossary at the back, and this is important for the students. Supposing they wanted to look something up, honors, for example. They could look in the glossary, and let's see what it says here. Honors. All right, it says that an honor card is an ace, a king, a queen, a jack, or a 10. All right, and then it refers to page 17, and they can turn back here and get more details on the honor card. It's authentic. We have a panel of the best players in the world, and we keep the material up to date. It has a video to go along with it. So if you have some students who really are absolute beginners and they would like to practice a little bit to keep up with the class, this is a complimentary first chapter, and there's enough information in this, it's on the internet, to keep your students busy for many hours. So having this kind of support is really worthwhile. And then the 5th reason is that it's used in many countries in the world. This book is very popular for Bridge for the Absolute Beginners, so it won't let you down. In this issue, we'll introduce you to Marsha and Daryl Helton, and they're responsible for starting this thriving bridge community in Sedona, Arizona. I know you'll enjoy the article. I look forward to seeing you for the next issue of the Better Bridge Teachers Newsletter. Thank you for joining me.